Hello and welcome to Quantum Conversations with Sarah Kleiner and Carrie Bennet. We are so excited about this new podcast. We are going to talk all about quantum health from more of the female viewpoint, but just the average person's viewpoint to make this information accessible so that you can start to implement it in your daily life. I'm going to be broadcasting this on my YouTube channel as well as my podcast for the first 4 episodes, but I really want to encourage you to go and follow us on the podcast app as well as the brand new YouTube channel where we're going to be posting these videos every single week. So the first 4 episodes, if you're seeing this introduction, make sure you head on over to the Quantum Conversations YouTube channel as well as the Quantum Conversations audio only podcast so you can follow the new episodes after these first 4 are published on my channel, the Sarah Kleiner Wellness YouTube channel, and the Evolving Wellness podcast. Those will be linked for you down in the show notes. I also want to let you know I'm posting in the show notes my free guides to building your perfect quantum day, as well as Carrie's free guides. She's got some amazing guides and resources, my courses, as well as Carrie's courses. If you want to dive deeper with any of this information, definitely get those free guides, mine and Carrie's, and check out our courses as well. I hope that you enjoy this episode and have a fantastic day. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the very first episode of Quantum Conversations with Sarah and Carrie. We are so excited that you're here. And yeah, let's talk, Carrie. What are we going to talk about today?
Well, I think, Sarah, we've both been in this health world for a long time now, and we somehow made it to quantum biology and using circadian strategies and mitochondrial support strategies involving things like light and water and earthing. And I think it's interesting to kind of share how we got here in the first place.
Yeah, I think so too. And I've talked about my story a lot. I want to hear your story more because it's like we've been friends for almost 2 years now. And I've heard little snippets of it on different podcasts that you've been on, but I don't know that I've ever heard like the full story of how you got into this because so let's.
Sure. Right. Sure. And so like, it goes way back, right? And I have shared this in bits and pieces, and I've shared that in undergrad, I was really supposed to, become a doctor or get a PhD in one of the molecular biological sciences. But even in college, like I was not feeling great. Like I had what was called chronic subluxation of my joints. So they would they would dislocate and pop right back in place. Which is challenging, right? To be a college volleyball player, and all of a sudden your shoulder just completely dislocates and pops back into place in the middle of a game. And so I just like this really joint hypermobility. I had lots of pain. I was taped up with kinesio tape everywhere. And I had garbage sleep and just really, just this fatigue and bloating. And did I work through it? Heck yeah, I worked through it. Right? I was in college. I had a lot of studying I wanted to do. I wanted to hang out with my friends. I wanted to play sports. Like I worked my way through it. But something, someone, some energy, some force is probably guiding me not to continue down the traditional road of going into med school, traditional medical school, or getting a PhD, because that is years now that I look back at it under crap fluorescent light and really bad schedules, right? Staying up late, going to so something was guiding me away from that. And I was guided towards massage therapy school. Which was cool because it was a completely different view of how the body operates. So very traditional Western perspective in one end. And then now it's like, oh, there's energy flow and we can put our hands not even on the body and manipulate energy flow and polarity and balance. And so it was cool. I didn't fully buy into it at the time, right? I was like, this sounds cool, right? And it's like, yes, these ancient practices they don't quite get the modern science. Like I was unfortunately, I poo-pooed it too much, but I'm really glad I went through that experience because it gave me a different perspective. And then fast forward to, having my first child who is almost 12. It was the worst, like I woke up one day and I just felt like crap. Right. I was in so much fatigue. I was so tired all the time. I could close my eyes at any time. I was in pain. My joints were puffy and swollen. My stomach was bloated all the time. I had the stinkiest gas you could possibly imagine, stomach cramps. And I couldn't sleep, right? I was exhausted physically. At the end of the day, my body would be like, I am so tired. But like around 9 o'clock at night, zing, I would like get this brain that just got wired and I couldn't shut it off for the life of me. And then in the meantime, my son also was a garbage sleeper, right? He couldn't sleep. He couldn't shut it down. And fast forward to, as he started to get into school age, he developed, he was clinically diagnosed, which he doesn't claim this, I don't claim it, but it was part of the journey. He was clinically diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder, and was basically told in order to control it, he would have to be medicated his whole entire life. And so, I called bullshit. It's like, I didn't know why I was feeling so, like, why was I feeling so crappy? Especially because it was around that time that I had gotten a master's degree in applied clinical nutrition and was applying nutrition, like eating perfectly. I was a personal trainer as well, exercising perfectly. I understood about massage therapy and energy flow and the more traditional viewpoint of the body. So what the heck was going on, right? What the heck was going on? Why couldn't I just like move the needle? Why couldn't I just all of a sudden say, okay, I'm eating like this, I'm doing this, and now I'm going to feel fine? And why couldn't I help my son either? And so, by the grace of God, I stumbled upon the work of Jack Kruse. I really have no clue what that Google search looked like, probably at 2:00 in the morning one night, to stumble upon his work. But it was just speaking about the body from such a different lens and paradigm and angle, talking about my light environment, talking about magnetism, talking about how the water in my body operates. And I didn't understand much of it at the time, but what I took away was go outside at sunrise, face east, touch your bare feet to the earth, touch your bare hands to the earth, make like the Sphinx, right? And just see what it does. And so I was like, all right, let me do this. So I started doing it. And within a matter of days, it was like this fog lifted, right? All of a sudden, my energy and my focus and my ability to concentrate were transformed. And so it was just like, wait a second, there's something to this, And so that's when I dove down this quantum health rabbit hole and had started applying more and more strategies surrounding it. And it's been the game changer. I feel like I'm thriving. I feel like I'm my fittest, youngest, most thriving version of myself yet, which feels cool to say. And my son too, like no OCD, no anxiety, doesn't need any meds for that, completely reversed. And it was all because we started to understand how the body operates from this different perspective.
Yeah, I feel like these diagnoses with children are more and more common. And I love that you kind of said, nope, I'm not owning this. We're not taking this on, because I do see a lot of parents and people just in general that they'll get a diagnosis and then that like they allow that to kind of become who they are and become their personality, or even for their children. Oh, he has this, he has that. And it, yeah, like I have a child with autism. So I've been down that road myself. But I think what I love about this is that you're like, no, we're not going to own it. We're not going to let this be who we are. And that you've been able to overcome that is so cool.
Yeah. You get this, right? You understand. My own health was something that it's like, okay, could I wake up and just kind of push through my day and get it done? And could I have lived the rest of my life like that? I could have, but my focus was my children. And as soon as my focus is my children. And as soon as I saw the changes happening in my oldest son, and I saw the road that he was potentially going down with the anxiety and the OCD, that's really what was the motivating factor for me to be like, what the heck is going on? Like, what is happening? And that's when I really understood more about my environment and how much it dictated health versus dis-ease than any of the other things I'd ever studied before.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you is what are the changes that you made that you think made the biggest impact for him and then also for yourself?
Well, I'll start with him. And I, again, didn't realize this at the time, but okay, new parent, right? New parent, what do we do? Well, what I did was I got a baby monitor and I put it right next to him, basically. Now, this was a wired monitor because back 12 years ago, I think it was too expensive for me to get the wireless one, right? Like something like that.
Now they have like the cameras and the wireless and all. Yeah. Yeah. They didn't have that when my daughter's 15. They didn't have that back then.
But you can still imagine, like there's still EMFs coming off that thing. And it was like right by his head. And I was also, in order to be able to kind of see him when I would open the door and peek in, like 3 nightlights on in the room. Right. And these like little LED nightlights everywhere. And then you also add on the fact that our house, this was 2 houses ago, it wasn't grounded. All of the outlets looked like they were grounded because they had 3 prongs. But when we went to sell, the realtor was like, or the who did it, the inspector was just like, these outlets aren't grounded. And we're like, what? So that's when I measured the dirty electricity and it was insane. So like this kid was basically just non-native EMF toxic, not only from the artificial lights and the LEDs from the night lights where he never experienced darkness, but then from all of the dirty electricity and the wireless radiation going through the house. We also had like his, it's a very small house. So like I would say the distance between his bedroom and his playpen, like, you get those little playpen areas and the Wi-Fi router was like 3 feet.
Oh,
right. Right. Knowing what I know now, it's hindsight of 2020. Yeah. But all of those things added up to like basically fry his nervous system, tank his melatonin. And so that's why it would take me like 2 hours of this bouncing on a ball and patting and him to only fall asleep for 20 to 40 minutes because he just couldn't shut it down, right? He couldn't shut it down. So,
oh gosh, that's tough. And I feel like there's so many parents that struggle with those types of issues with babies. It's tough, but they do have the ability to make their own melatonin and, there was night lights, the monitors, and now they also have this thing called the owlet. Have you heard of that?
Isn't that pad that they sleep on? Or there's one that like that it's like a pad to feel if they're breathing. I forget.
Yeah, it's like, I think it's a strap that goes on like their ankle to make sure that they're still breathing at night. And I'm like, yeah, I can see the appeal of that because like my son now, he is doing longer sleep stretches. Like it scared the crap out of me the other night. Like he slept from like 7 o'clock until 3:30 in the morning. And I was like, you keep waking up and you're like, oh God, is it, is that they're like, are they okay? So I'd like go like touch his face and his like arms would go and you're like, okay, he's fine. Like try to like, sneak out without waking them.
Sure.
So I can understand the appeal because you're like, are they okay? And, you hear all these stories about babies and stuff like that, but the amount of like non-native EMF that you're exposing your baby to, like, I wonder kind of the downstream effects of how that's going to, like, what is that doing to the baby? Right.
Well, if you think about it, right. So this is where, that was really, I feel like 10 years ago is really when things started to boom, right? Everybody had a cell phone that then would connect to the internet. And so they needed the more intense 3G, ultimately getting to 4G. I remember at that old house, all of a sudden when 4G popped up on my phone, I was like, what's this? What's 4G? But like, that was clearly a big boom in terms of the intensity of the non-native EMFs. But with kids, right? The reason why kids are so susceptible is because they don't have a fully myelinated nervous system.
Right.
And so the nervous system, right, the nerves, the neurons are meant to be coated in a protective coating of fat called myelin. And basically our nervous systems aren't fully myelinated until we're about 25 years old. So the non-native, picture it like the non-native EMFs had a direct pathway to his nervous system to really just create mitochondrial dysfunction all throughout his nervous system and really put his body just kind of in that state of stress, a high fight or flight all the time. So he couldn't shut it down. And so, yeah, that's why kids are especially susceptible to the non-native EMFs. And whereas, you and I with fully myelinated nervous systems, it's nowhere near healthy for us, but we don't have that. It's not going to impact us the same way it's going to impact an infant or, 2 or 3 year old.
Yeah. And the other thing that I know Cruz talks about, I've heard him talk about several times, is that you and I'm almost 44. You're a little,
I'm 42. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we did not have cell phones. We did not have Wi-Fi. We did not have any of that stuff. I had a pager when I was 16.
Beeper.
Type in the code. With using the different numbers for different words. And
I never had one. I always thought they were so cool. My friends had them. I was like, that's a beeper.
I got one because I got a job. I was working I was working at Chick-fil-A in the drive-thru. And so that was like part of you get to have a pager because you have a job now, kind of a deal. But you and I didn't grow up with, like you just mentioned. I wonder what the long-term effects of this are going to be on this generation. I think we're starting to see that with people that are coming up in their teens and 20s now, that everybody has ADHD. Everybody has some sort of, everyone's diagnosing themselves with autism these days, which I don't want to offend anyone listening. And so Carrie and I are probably going to talk about some stuff on this podcast. We're going to make it a recurring thing that might, ruffle some feathers. But when you have a child like mine that is severely impacted by autism, she cannot speak, right? She's probably going to live with me forever. It's severely impacted. And then there's all these people who are like self-diagnosing with autism. And I've had this conversation with a lot of other parents that have children like Alexis. That like burns my ass. I'm sorry. I'm like, you do not need to be borrowing that word. Like, fix your light environment, fix your diet, get off your damn cell phone 24 hours a day, quit blasting yourself with non-native EMF and artificial light at night, and see if you still feel the same freaking way. Yeah, I feel like I have ADHD or some kind of crazy mental disorder if I'm on my phone 24/7 and sitting beside a Wi-Fi router. Like, I feel sick, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
So I'm like, all these people that are having, the children that are having all these issues now, teens in their 20s, how much of this is related to this whole, like, they grew up with the Wi-Fi, with these things when their nervous systems and their brains were not fully myelinated, right? They didn't have that good blood-brain barrier protection that they need, right?
100%. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And so you're right. I think a lot of what we're seeing, I used to teach college courses, and in that population, over the course of the past, how many years was I teaching? Like 18 years, there was a big shift in students who would come to me who had some anxiety and depression, but it was more rare 15, 20 years ago, to the extent that it's over 50% of the class now has true, like really debilitating symptoms of anxiety and depression. And I guarantee you it's tied to the amount of blue light they're receiving from screens on a daily basis, in conjunction with the non-native EMFs. And of course, the culture of instant gratification notifications, right? Like, need more, who liked it, right? So all of those things are combining to just create such it's tough. Like, don't get me wrong, it's tough. I'm not going to lie, but it doesn't mean that you have to live with it. There are strategies and mitigation techniques that can be put in place. And I've seen firsthand how turning someone's cell phone screen red all of a sudden puts down their desire to pick it up all the time. Because it's the blue wavelengths of light coming from that cell phone screen that actually give a hit of dopamine, a shock of dopamine to the system every single time. So when you lower that, you all of a sudden make a screen less addictive. When you have people turn off all of their notifications, it makes it way less addicting. And that gives them the capacity then to reestablish healthy dopamine levels and dopamine pathways in conjunction with like the circadian practices we talk about that we know also help with dopamine production in the brain. But I do feel like this is only going to get worse until this message gets out exactly what the screen technology, from the light in it to the non-native EMFs, are really truly doing to the body.
Agree. And it's crazy. I know you have a nutrition background. That's how I got into the alternative health space, was through nutrition, through talking about the carnivore diet. And kind of accidentally going viral. It was not something I had kind of planned to do, but it happened. Here we are. And now I'm talking about this because that ended up not being the thing. I'm still friends with a lot of people in that community, and I do think food is important, but a lot of the people in diet community are quick to say that everybody's health sucks because they're all eating seed oils and they're eating a bunch of crappy foods. And I don't know. It's interesting now. I'm like, that could be part of it, but I don't think it's a full story now, kind of knowing what I know about how these types of things affect the body. Would you say?
Yeah, I would. And, like everyone wants to be very dogmatic about their particular way of eating. But what I have seen just from a clinical nutrition perspective now for about 10 years is the fact that there's almost always like this adaptation phase that people experience when they shift. So you could go from processed food to carnivore, processed food to vegan, vegetarian to keto. Like there is like a healing effect that happens in a transition. The body can maybe go through more autophagy. Maybe you're eating less processed foods than you ever were before. So maybe you're shopping more locally at your farmer's market, less glyphosate, right? But I do see this shift, but it appears to me that there's like this sweet spot of like 2 years.
Yeah.
It's like, it feels really good for 2 years. And then all of a sudden shit hits the fan again, or progress stops. And then people are looking for the next diet to make them feel that way again. And then the next diet and the next diet. And so they try all these different diets, and you have to ask yourself, is it the diet or is it something else about your lifestyle that's really what's impacting your progress?
Yeah, that's, and it's crazy. I think people are more and more sick these days, so that they're hitting that wall sooner and sooner. Like I'd say the average is probably 2 years, but I get people that are doing diet for 6 months and they're just like, it would help at first and now it's not, or that the diet doesn't even make a huge difference on their health. They're just so sick that it's like, I'm doing this diet and I really just don't even feel that much better. And I'm like, yeah, because you're sitting indoors all day, laying around, you're not going outside, and you're sitting by your Wi-Fi router on your phone all day. And that is really contributing to this chronic illness that you have. Like, we have to change that first. And then, then maybe we can make some dietary changes, and they'll be a lot easier to make, I think, once we tackle this part. But people, they want to go for the food first. And I think it is kind of that low hanging fruit, but I've really changed my mind about how I address things with people. I'm like, let's do this stuff first, and then we can do the nutrition,
Yeah, absolutely. I think the light environment and understanding light and non-native EMFs is the foundation upon which I really get to sort out symptoms with clients. So, I've got a questionnaire that's like 217 questions, right? Involving all different systems of the body and all different potential symptoms. And what I like about it is that so many symptoms can shift simply by getting one's light environment correct. So if I were to have tackled the questionnaire and the symptoms based on nutrition first, or, supplements, maybe, I would have been off mark. I wouldn't have been hitting it at root cause, or getting to what's foundational and fundamental, and what really needs to be supported nutritionally, what needs to be supported maybe with supplements. So having that foundation of light is really key when it comes to saying, okay, what symptoms were simply because your circadian rhythm was so flipping off that your digestive system didn't know when to make enough stomach acid or when to regenerate. Your brain didn't know when it had to go through autophagy and clear out broken proteins because you weren't making enough melatonin at night, right? And so once you kind of sort that out, it's amazing how all of a sudden you get, it gets so much more narrower in terms of, oh, okay, yeah, this really does hint more at mold or more at histamine or whatever it is, right? But sometimes people give themselves these blanket diagnoses based on simply trying food alone, and they've never laid the foundation of light. So I encourage anyone listening to this to understand that your light environment is a signal that every cell in your body uses to tune its clock to. And if that's off, you can imagine that if you're not getting the right signal, then your body is just going to be out of whack. And there's really no better way of putting it.
Yeah, I love that. I think you just simplified it so much because I know you do get messages and emails constantly from people who are like, I'm getting a lot of CIRS
Yeah,
people these
sure.
days. There are some people that are popularizing that. They're also charging thousands and thousands of dollars for lab testing and these things to diagnose it. And I'm like, and then what's your next thing? You're going to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on supplements from the same person. So how much money of yours are they walking away with? And they never are addressing this foundational piece, which is your circadian health. Like, your body is not going to be able to heal properly if you don't address this foundational thing. It's like these kind of illnesses, they cycle through popularity. The parasites are real hot right now. CIRS are really, that's a really popular one right now. And it's like, if we get the signaling down correctly in your body, right? A lot of these things can kind of take care of themselves. Or if you do plan on doing a detox protocol of some sort, it's going to be a lot more effective because your body kind of knows how to manage things and how to detoxify things properly, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, I call it the idea, like a lot of these strategies are what I call killing strategies, right? Or like forceful removal strategies, where it's like, you've got mold, let's get it out. You've got Lyme, let's get it out. You've got a fungus, right? Parasites, let's get them out, You've got heavy metals, got to pull those out. But what people don't realize is that oftentimes a body that's been going through a chronic illness journey or a chronic health journey is a body that's depleted energetically. So it doesn't matter what binder you throw at it. It doesn't matter what tincture you throw at it. It doesn't matter what, like herbal remedy to kill parasites you throw at it. If you are lacking at that fundamental level of energetic capacity, it's not going to do its job to the extent that you would hope it will, right? Nine times out of 10, people go through our protocol searchers. I'm going to go to this protocol, to that protocol, to that protocol. And maybe it's not the protocol. It could be a very good protocol, but your energetic capacity can't handle all the things that your body is being asked to do. Kill this bacteria, remove the lipopolysaccharides, detoxify through the liver. All of that requires energy, and energy is generated in a combination of light, water, and mitochondrial function. And if those aren't addressed, then I don't care what you're doing. It's just not, it's not fun. It's not the foundation upon which your body needs. I'm not anti-parasites, right? I'm not mold, right? I know these are things. I'm not a denier that these are not health challenges, but we have to build one's energetic reserves to be able to clear it in the first place. And I know you and I have seen many times in clinical practice where when we lay the foundation using light and mitochondrial support and understanding how the water operates in our bodies, that we give people's bodies energetic reserve to do what it naturally knows how to do. And it doesn't need the protocol then anymore to start to detoxify or to feel better.
Exactly. That's what I think. I mean, talking about our journeys, that's where I got to with all of this quantum stuff, is because I went down that functional medicine rabbit hole and all the testing and the supplements and the money, and that I think so many people are drawn into that. Like, I opened my Instagram the other day. We need to do an episode on like Instagram trends, but I opened my Instagram the other day and it was like parasite, like 10 posts about parasites from different people. I'm like, okay, what the heck is going on right now? This is like the only thing people are talking about. And again, we're not knocking on it, but having gone through the experience I went through with spending all this money on protocols and testing and supplements and not really seeing any improvement at all, then going down, meeting Dr. Cruz, and then finding Dr. Corey, like all the people, and then actually having progress for the first time in years, like dropping 30 pounds, like super easy, feeling better, more energetic, and then getting pregnant. And I'm like, like I can never go back to looking at these types of pages the same way. It's crazy. Like, I don't know. I'm not hating on anybody, but for anybody listening that's kind of in that stuck place with health and they're considering doing anything like that, I would just try this stuff first, not to say never go down the road of getting rid of parasites and don't worry about mold. Yeah, you don't want to live in a house with mold in it, right? You do need to get out of that. You do need to be cognizant of mold, but we got to do this stuff first in order for, it's like building a good foundation for a house, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to train, you have to build the energetic capacity up, and you have to, the body relies on correct timing. So you have to have timing down. You have to have strong regeneration when you sleep, and you have to have energetic reserve. And those are foundational. And so that's the cool part about getting into this quantum health sphere, is that I don't feel like we're telling people never go to do this protocol, never do that protocol. It's or to practitioners either, because what practitioners are doing right now, every practitioner is trying to do their best, right?
Yeah.
But what I am hearing in the practitioner world is they're coming up against barriers and walls faster than ever before. So we're getting sicker as a population, and the tools that were in one's toolbox are no longer working the way they used to work. So that means that maybe there's something else we can add to one's toolbox at a more foundational level to help all the other stuff be successful again. And that's what I have found these strategies to be.
Yeah. And it's remarkable to me, the amount of emails I've gotten in the last few months from practitioners who take my course. I'm like, you're literally a doctor taking my course. Like, first of all, wow. Okay. That's cool. But they're like, this has been life-changing for me. And now I am doing these protocols with my patients, and I'm actually seeing progress for the first time, because I think people are up against a lot right now. They're up against like this toxic non-native EMF environment. We're up against, forced medical interventions that are causing people to get really sick and injured. Got to be careful how we word that on here, but you and I have both dealt with that. And I know a lot of the functional practitioners are dealing with people who, again, have been injured from a medical experiment that they've been talked into getting. And I've had a lot of practitioners reach out to me and say, this is the first thing I've been able to utilize with my patients that's actually finally getting them the needle moving. And I don't think that they're throwing out all their other protocols with mold or parasites or any of these other things. They're still able to kind of add those in, but they're doing this stuff foundationally and finally seeing progress. And I'm like, that's really cool.
It's super cool to hear that. Absolutely. And what I find fascinating in terms of just kind of what you were alluding to about potentially a medical intervention that people were asked to get and then had injuries from, there are some organizations who have been curating ways to potentially help the body if they are experiencing an injury or a health challenge from it. And now they're starting to add the more quantum health strategies to their protocols. Really? Red light therapy, methylene blue, understanding that melatonin is very important. Now, I would personally say melatonin is important when we make it endogenously, but it's really interesting to see now they're having to dig deeper to recognize, like, wait a second, what we're dealing with can be a really severe thing for people. What truly gets the ball rolling? Circadian health, circadian strategies, quantum health strategies.
Wow. Yeah, I actually had a comment on Instagram today of a woman who is like, I just got diagnosed with CIRS, which is, I think it's like chronic inflammatory
response syndrome. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's like, and they're telling me I need to take high dose melatonin to deal with this. And I was like, well, I mean, you could, but I really don't recommend that unless someone has like, cancer or is dealing with an active, maybe a COVID infection. Again, None of this is medical advice on this podcast, but I would see what you could do to allow your body to make that endogenously. And I would guarantee that you're going to have a symptom improvement, like hugely. Yeah.
The easy thing to do is I think people are, we're a world, and I was here, right? I was here. It's like, tell me what supplement to take. Tell me what product I need to buy so that I can feel better. I feel like crap. Just tell me what to take. And it was easier for me to wrap my brain around taking 20 to 30 supplements a day than it was for me to wrap my brain around going outside at sunrise or taking a walk at UVA rise, right? Like the two of the things that I think that were the most transformative for me. I just couldn't wrap my brain around that. I think that's where a lot of us are at. And even practitioners in their protocols are like, well, we know sleep is important. We know melatonin is important. So here you go. Here's your 10 milligrams of melatonin to take to get you to sleep at night. But when we have to recognize that everything works in a feedback loop. Mm-hmm. And in that feedback loop, it means that there's a reason why the majority of the melatonin that I make at nighttime is secreted from my pineal gland into my bloodstream and into my cerebrospinal fluid, as opposed to getting absorbed through my gut, right?
The gut,
because there's a whole feedback loop and recycling pathway that happens, because ultimately I also will then have tryptophan. The melatonin will ultimately break down to tryptophan that then happens to basically aggregate in the backs of the eyes, ready to receive the morning wavelengths of light to become serotonin. And so it's like, once you understand the loops, it makes more sense not to inject a bunch of stuff into one part, thinking that we understand the complete loop, and instead use lifestyle changes to optimize it, which I've just found to be so rewarding as a practitioner, because it means I'm recommending way more free things. Right. Way more free lifestyle changes and way less supplements. And that a lot of people find it rewarding as well to be able to take this box of supplements that they've, been recommended over the course of a decade and really pare it down to just what absolutely might be essential.
I agree. I think that's really empowering for people. And I feel like that's what you and I are really wanting more for people, because we've both, just circling back to the whole topic of today's episode of just how and why we found quantum health, just really both of us feeling a lot more freedom, a lot more empowered. And that's really why I think that we are trying to share this message with so many people, is like, it's super empowering that you can do a lot of stuff, and a lot of it is absolutely free. It costs you nothing. You can actually save money over what you were spending on the supplements and feel a heck of a lot better. And that's quantum. It's something that's very small that can yield a large result, right?
Yeah, absolutely. What you understand, that's exactly right. I want people to understand that it's about the signaling. Quantum health is all about the signaling. And when you optimize the signaling, all you need is to basically flip the signal and you get this downstream effect happening. And so I really want to coach people on the signaling that's needed, that we need to sync up to in order to let the body do what it's meant to do. Because the body is not trying. Symptoms are a result of a body trying to heal itself. Yeah. So it just means that whatever signals we're giving the body, we're not giving it the signals it needs to heal. And so our ideal situation is we're giving people all the tools about the signals in their environment that they can use to optimize their own healing pathways.
I love that. And it's applicable to children, ourselves, our parents. I know you've done it with your mother even. She's seen some amazing health.
God bless my mother. Yeah. She she's always been on board. Like, isn't it funny when it's like, I honestly don't think a majority of my extended family understands what I do for a living. And I'm like,
none of mine do.
You know what I mean? It's like, I actually have a very thriving clinical practice, and people are coming to me from around the world with challenges that we're helping with. And so, but my mom always has understood, like, Carrie's got some knowledge. I want to jump on that. And she was so good. It's like, Mom, sunrise, go outside at sunrise. Mom, red light therapy. Mom, block the artificial light. Mom, eat this protein rich meal at breakfast, right? Try to be in ketosis during this time. Go outside, get a little walk here. And she's been doing it. And, she's, at least 60 pounds lost. And back when she was starting to come out here and help me with my first child, I've got 3 now, right? When she was helping me with my first child, she seems like decades younger than she was back then. Like, I look back at pictures and how her knees used to hurt and give out on her and all this pain that she used to have. And now I look at her, I'm like, look at how much younger you are almost 12 years later, and look at how much fitter you are. And she's doing all the things. So I'm just very proud of her.
That's so cool. That's so inspiring. And I think that's the way we have to do things, is we work on ourselves, we figure it out for ourselves, and then hopefully we help those around us. I haven't done a great job of it with my family, but
yeah, I know. No, we all, it's so funny, right? It's so funny. People, it's family. It's a family dynamic thing. That's for sure. But what I do want to also highlight is that it's a journey too. It really truly is a lifestyle, this quantum health stuff. And what I'm really proud to say is I've not had one person who really jumped into this quantum health and did some of the foundational practices that we recommend and say, oh, I don't want to do that anymore. Like everyone who gets into this is like, oh yeah,
I don't want to stop.
Right. There's really something to this morning light. Like this is a game changer. It's like, it's cool to be able to say that, because I don't think that's definitely not the case with how I used to recommend protocols and things like that for elimination diets and supplements and things. It's completely different. This truly exercise programs. Yeah. This truly feels like it's helping people with a lifestyle shift that they love. They end up loving.
Yep. I feel the same way. And, I know you have a private group. I've got a private membership group, and a lot of those people have been with me for the last 3.5 years. They've been there for a while, and a lot of them have kind of come with me on this journey, and they have gone from like being into carnivore and, the carb restriction. And now they're all quantum. Like we all are posting pictures of, being barefoot outside and sun. And the most funny pictures in that group, and talking about wearing cold vests and cold immersions. There's at least one bathtub picture a week of someone who's trying a cold plunge in their bathtub. And I'm like, this is pretty cool. And we don't sit new members. I'll get new members that micro obsess about food and worry about the food. And I'm like, just hang out for a little bit. And this part will get a little bit easier for you, I think. Cause it's that low hanging fruit where everyone wants to go. But I don't know about you. I don't want to spend the rest of my life, counting calories, counting macros. Worrying about how many grams of carbs I had on that particular day, or, I don't want to do that. I want to do what makes actual sense. Like if it's summertime and I'm leptin sensitive, then I'm going to have the watermelon sitting outside, and I'm going to enjoy it because it grows here. And if it's wintertime, then I'll have the nice, more ketogenic meals and the stews and the soups and all that stuff. And it doesn't have to be this dogmatic thing that I think people make it out to be.
Yeah, I love that. And it does. It feels more freeing nutritionally than anything I've ever done, because the focus isn't nutrition. My health was optimized, really not touching much with my nutrition at all. And instead it was shifting these other things that I think just moved the needle so far for me. Again, which is why I'll never go back. But it's also when one has the energetic capacity built up, we call it redox potential. We're going to refer to it a lot as redox potential. That's when you have the energetic capacity. Guess what? I don't recommend this, but you could go to a fast food restaurant and eat garbage today, and your body's going to be able to handle the damage, the rise in inflammation, the clearing of that crap, the toxins. Your body can handle it because you have the energetic reserve. And so I worry way less about food because I don't have digestive symptoms anymore. Right. I used to be severely gluten sensitive, like debilitatingly gluten sensitive, leaky gut stuff. And it's just not a part of it anymore, to the extent that I don't worry if I'm at a family's house and they're cooking something and there happens to be gluten in the sauce, which used to knock me out for a day or two.
Right.
It just doesn't. It's the coolest, most freeing thing ever. So
yeah. It's crazy how that works. And I was going to say that I always talk about the story of the month I actually did get pregnant after going through this long journey. I was talking about it with my private group the other day. That Christmas, because I got pregnant in January, that Christmas, I was like, I'm going to just eat whatever I want. Basically, I had been so dogmatic every year. I had not enjoyed any holiday. I'm like, I have to stay carnivore. I can't eat the carbs. I can't have the dessert. And I was like, I can make this just like, I can just enjoy Christmas. I can enjoy New Year's. I can just not stress out about food. And I went to the doctor, got blood drawn when my cycle had started. She's like, oh, your estrogen's a little too high for pregnancy this month. I don't think it's going to happen for you, blah, blah, blah. I'll see you for IVF, starting February. And I thought to myself, my redox is really damn good. My mitochondria is super healthy. Maybe I have a little bit of excess estrogen because I ate whatever the hell I wanted for a couple of weeks, but my body's going to clear this just fine. And I'm going to get pregnant this month. And I did. And, we live and die by diet and by what the doctor says and what our lab results say. But when our mitochondria is dialed in, when that energy capacity is dialed in, your body can handle some of these things. You can clear things. where it doesn't have to, we don't have to be as sensitive, I think, as a lot of people make us out to be.
Exactly. You're 100% right. That was my experience as well. And it's cool. It really is. I think the word that I hear all the time is it's empowering and it's freeing. Yeah. Once you recognize it, that you can do other things beyond food and exercise and supplements to support your body.
Exactly. And again, it's not costly.
No, I mean, the most expensive thing that I think everybody absolutely needs is a pair of blue blockers. I mean, but you can get some for $30 and it's a one-time purchase. Yep. So again, if that's what the shift is, it's getting outside at key times, understanding what's happening and how to put things in airplane mode, and then blocking artificial light at a certain time of night. I mean, doesn't seem like it's not a huge financial commitment. That's for sure.
Exactly. I love it. Well, Carrie and I are going to be doing these quantum conversations regularly. So we're going to just talk about different topics that come up. So if you have something you want us to talk about, make sure to send us a comment, let us know, and we'll be happy to talk about it. But this has been super fun. And I'm just personally excited about getting to talk to Carrie every week.
Me too, Sarah. This is fun. I love it. It's like the highlight of my week right here.
Me too. Absolutely. Yeah. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week for another quantum conversation.